Hi everybody, Happy New Year. Tom Krantz here with the Tint podcast. I thought today to start off 2024, I would give you some highlights of my 2023 episodes. I picked out 4 or 5 of what I think are the best, most interesting ones. In 2023, I inaugurated video into my podcast, so I do, for the first time that year, I did both audio and video. I'm getting, plenty of downloads of the audio, but I want to make sure you all know that most of these stories have video elements. It's cool to see the book covers, samples of the art, the photography that we're talking about. And so among my favorite podcast episodes of last year was my interview with Rob Feldman. Rob is an old colleague from my days in local TV in Philadelphia. But after Rob left local TV, he had a really fascinating job in which he went for Sony International Pictures to many countries around the world where he and his crew adapted American sitcoms to the local cultural awarenesses. One of their big successes was the Russian version of Everyone Loves Raymond. That Russian sitcom became the longest running sitcom in world history, according to the Guinness Book of World Records.
We would adapt the scripts to The Nanny, Married with Children, Who's the Boss, Everybody Loves Raymond. But these were huge hits.
The other reason I decided to talk to Rob is he's a really accomplished landscape photographer. He's been taking pictures all his life, but he's got his Fuji camera, which he takes with him almost on daily trips through Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is just a wellspring of beautiful pictures and landscapes. Another former colleague is Chris Wall. Chris Wall is a technician / director at CBS News. I worked with him when I worked in CBS News in the late 90s and early 2000s. Chris has been making music as a guitarist, singer, and songwriter since pretty much his teens. He had a short brush with fame back in his youth. That kind of came crashing down for a number of reasons. Today, however, he is probably at his best ever.
Hey, can't you see that it's never ending? You're in a daydream.
I remember when my father first started playing the Beatles and the Who, I was just like, wow.
So your father listened to rock and roll music?
Yeah, I mean, he listened to everything. I mean, he loved Rachmaninoff and Mozart and a lot of piano, classical, opera. I was exposed to all of it. But what turned me on was when he was playing the rock music. And he was a college professor. He actually had students feeding him stuff. So it was pretty cool.
Charles Wiedemann is a fellow Philadelphian. In fact, Charles grew up really less than a mile from where I grew up in Northeast Philadelphia. I interviewed Charles first 2 years ago when he wrote his first book, Lawndale, which is named after the neighborhood that he grew up in. And it was one of my most popular podcast episodes, probably because a lot of people love nostalgia. Last year, he finished up his book, Down the Shore, and What Life is Like at the Jersey Shore for Philly kids who just look forward to that every single year.
There were times, like you said, where something pops and I have to stop what I'm doing and go to my phone and just jot it down into my notepad on my phone under a heading that just says Wildwood. And there's tons of it to scroll through, just idea after idea and memory after memory. Like, I can't forget the tram car. I can't forget the ice cream man on the beach. I can't forget the planes that pull the signs. And it was maddening because I felt, I don't want to forget anybody and I don't want to forget any part of Wildwood, because more than anything else, there have been documents and books and stuff on the internet about the history of Wildwood, and you can see videos and everything, but I wanted to capture that feeling, Tom, and that is the main part of this book.
Late in 2023, I met and interviewed a young woman named Sabine Posey. Sabine is a public school teacher in Linden, New Jersey. She teaches English as a second language, and I learned an awful lot about English as a second language as a teacher. I learned, for example, that you don't have to know the second language to teach English to non-English speakers. But be that as it may, the real reason I interviewed her was that she wrote a book, a children's book, that was inspired by her young son. He actually came out of COVID and home learning and went to school. He made a friend there, and the two of them blossomed and became very social and very friendly. And this really inspired her to write this book.
Just the pureness of their friendship, the pureness of their love, almost. It's like no matter where they were in the building, it was during after dismissal, when they're going home, or during drop off, they would greet each other with the biggest heartwarming hug. And they would they were like really inseparable. They really were drawn to each other. And
don't you wish certain adults would act that way sometimes?
Exactly. And leave it to children to kind of teach us, there's so much bigger things.
And finally, a throwback to my old days as a drummer. My good friend for 50 plus years, Don Berman, who is a working drummer in Seattle. He is also a premier innovator in freeform music. He and his colleague, Dick Valentine, who is a woodwind player, they've recorded a number of things. They've performed together. And the two of them did a podcast interview with me about the free music scene in Seattle.
What made you kind of go off into this direction? Was it the two of you together, or did you have that interest to begin with anyway?
We both had interests in stuff besides straight ahead and free jazz. I had met a woman who was in the belly dancing, Middle Eastern percussion 20 years ago. She turned me on to doumbeks and Middle Eastern percussion. And I had some tabla lessons. And I was a percussion major in college. So I kind of had an interest not just to only play drum set forever. And I think on the parallel road, Dick was accumulating and studying world flutes from a number of different countries.
I had an interest in creating music since I ever became aware of the Art Ensemble of Chicago.
Okay.
I was pretty young when I found out about them, and I saw those guys, especially Joseph Jarman and Roscoe Mitchell, standing at the front of this stage with this trumpeter in a white coat, and Lester is standing there, lonely with his trumpet, and these two woodwind guys are just surrounded by, every blowable thing that you can imagine.
So those are some of the highlights of 2023. 2024 promises to be another cool year. I will be trolling out there for interesting authors, artists, photographers, musicians, as Type Tune Tint goes into its 5th year. I really appreciate all of your support. I hope that you'll consider supporting me on Patreon. You can join Patreon for 0 money, but if you found it in your heart and in your wallet to come up with $2.50 a month, that would be a huge help in defraying some of the costs I have for doing all of my websites, but especially Type Tune Tint. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and Happy New Year, everybody.
Hi, folks. Tom Krantz here. I appreciate you tuning in to my podcast, Type Tune Tint, and I especially appreciate those of you who have subscribed. I started this subscriber thing in July of 2024, really just as a way of recouping a little bit of the costs of doing this podcast. There's website hosting, and there's WordPress additions, and occasionally I buy a book so that I can actually know what I'm talking about when I interview an author. You can subscribe to this podcast for as little as $3 a month. Comes off your credit card automatically, and for $3 a month, you get the satisfaction of knowing that you're helping keep this podcast going. I'm in my 5th year now, but also I will occasionally offer exclusive content just for subscribers. So give it a shot. I appreciate you taking the plunge. You can unsubscribe anytime you want. If you have any questions or comments, of course, you know how to get in touch. So please subscribe, and I appreciate it. Thanks.